Hello boxing fans, so a heavily anticipated weekend for boxing this was. We witnessed some very anticipated fights. Joyce against Bermane Stiverne, James Degale against Eubank Jr. And why these fights were so intriguing? Because literally both of those matchups were do or die for all of the fighters involved. And some people ask me, why is it a do or die fight, especially for Joyce, who for example had his only 8th pro fight against Bermane Stiverne. Well, he's 33 years old, doesn't get any younger. Only 8th fight, needs to move up fast through the ranks. People have big expectations from him. He had some solid amateur career, and basically that's why he had to beat Stiverne. Because when we look at Stiverne now, some people are telling me that he's a bum because he came into this fight out of shape because Joyce is so bad. He couldn't take out the walking punching bag in Stiverne before the round 6. I heard a lot of opinions like that, and it's not really what actually happened. I mean, what could we have expected from Bermane Stiverne in this fight? Well, most of the boxing experts said that he's probably gonna get beat up, but what could we really expect him to do? I mean, people telling me that this fight he came really out of shape. When did he came in shape? I mean, what do you expect from Stiverne when he comes in shape? He's always like that. Not that he's always not in shape, it's just he's a fighter that has two attributes that carried him through his career at this level. It's his granite chin, very good jaw, and really good power. And when we talk about him as a fighter and what could we have expected from him in this fight, let's first of all let's look at his activity and what has he done in the last 4 years. The thing about Stiverne, why I told people before the fight that Joyce will beat him up, is that lately, and by saying lately I mean the last 4 years, he's been heavily inactive and hardly smashed by Wilder. And we need to get a little deeper into those. I mean, his first fight against Deontay Wilder was in 2015, January 17th. And that fight he defended his WBC heavyweight title against Wilder as his first defense after winning it. It was a vacant title. He fought Chris Arreola for it and finished him in 6th round, and his first defense was Deontay Wilder. And before that fight I said Bermane Stiverne will be the first guy to take Deontay Wilder to distance. Why did I say that? Because I looked at his background. He's from Haiti, Aboriginal, how I call them. Those fighters just really proved over the history of fighting sports, of boxing, to be really hard to stop, to knock out, to put to sleep, almost impossible, pretty much. Just seemed like they have a different skull. Bermane Stiverne, in that first fight with Wilder, he took everything Wilder threw at him. He took all sorts of punches. He got knocked down badly, took all sorts of punches, and he just kept coming. And the thing with Wilder is he has that phenomenal power, that one-of-a-kind type of power. It's something special in that right hand. When he connects, it's pretty much 99. If he connects really heavily, cleanly on your jaw, it's 99% of the heavyweights pretty much go to sleep to some extent. and Stiverne, he just kept coming, and after that fight, he spent some. He had some really hard time in hospital. He was very dehydrated. He was in really, really bad shape, from as far as I remember, in serious condition after that fight. And he chose to came back same year against Derrick Rossi, who's really an average fighter. Just nobody knows who he really is. Never was a good heavyweight. So Stiverne, it was like his comeback fight from that beatdown from Wilder in the same year, and he looked bad in that fight. He looked sloppy, he looked off, he looked damaged, really. It didn't look like he recovered from all the damage he took from Wilder fight, and maybe something else. We don't know how his training, something, health conditions, all that sorts of personal things that go in his life as well. So after the Derrick Rossi fight, I'm not sure why, but he took 2 years off from boxing, literally 2 years off. And then he came back after 2 year layoff to fight Deontay Wilder again. I mean, imagine what his managers, his team, I mean of Stiverne's, was thinking. To let the fighter against Deontay Wilder after 2 years of inactivity, and just 2015 also were bad years for Stiverne, and 2016 he hasn't fought, and I don't know if that's a normal idea. And in that rematch with Wilder, we saw what happened. I mean, people telling that he took a dive. Well, I don't realize then what is a dive, because when I was watching that rematch, the second fight between Bermane Stiverne and Wilder, obviously I was predicting a heavy knockout, because Stiverne just was inactive. He got smashed by Wilder. He came back same year, looked bad against Derrick Rossi. He won the unanimous decision and took 2 years off, and then just came back to fight Deontay Wilder again. I mean, imagine Tyson Fury coming back after this layoff without zero tune-ups, just jumped in the ring with Deontay Wilder. I don't think it also would have been so good. So that being said, I cannot blame Stiverne, because he did what he had to do. I actually want more people to show a little respect to that man, because he's a fighter and he did what a fighter has to do. He came to fight and he fought, and you can see in that rematch with Wilder, he got, of course he was out of shape. It's not his fault that his management used him for Wilder rematch after 2 year layoff. I mean, he agreed to fight. I believe he thought inside his heart that he can win this fight, as many real fighters think about any fight that they go into. And he came into that fight. Of course his timing was off, and he just got hit flush by Wilder in that first round. Right hand landed flush on Stiverne's jaw, and it was a real knockdown. He just went down from that force of the punch. Not that first knockdown was really, he didn't went down because he got concussed, as much as the force of the punch just blew him down. And imagine what kind of power Wilder has to blow a guy like Stiverne down like that. It's really a phenomenal power. And Stiverne got up. He tried to shake it off, and then he got hit again, and he got hurt. And then Wilder saw it, and he just followed up very, very viciously, as he does when he gets you hurt. He starts swinging these insane windmills from hell knows where right to your head, and it was just the end. But the thing about that knockout, Stiverne also didn't get knocked out cold in that fight. I mean, the people don't understand the kind of chin he really has. He took the best shots from Wilder. Even in the rematch, he after that second knockdown where the fight ended, Stiverne kinda hung on the rope, similar like when Tommy Morrison fought Ray Mercer back in the day, and Ray Mercer knocked Morrison out, and he didn't fall down. He was unconscious at that time, but he didn't fall down. He was hanging on the ropes, and then Mercer just unleashed 2, 3 totally unnecessary punches to his head while he was knocked out, while the referee was totally sleeping. And while the rematch, it was a bit similar. Stiverne wasn't that out, but he was already badly hurt, hung on the ropes, and he got hit by some 2 or 3 totally unnecessary shots by Wilder in that fight, and the referee was sleeping, and I hate referees like that. I think they should they should fight somebody like that and take some of those punches so they would have a better feeling what it feels, and when they do their job they would be more into the control of what they are doing, because sometimes they just, I don't know, I mean, 265 pounds fighters are trading bombs in there, and you have to be on top of the action. You got to be on top of the things. You got to have a good vision, have a good control over the fight, and that's not what every referee sadly can do. Not every referee sadly can do his job, and if a man simply cannot do his job, what happens? He gets fired. So I would like to see more of that with referees as well. So that being said, Stiverne took these shots, and he collapsed on the ground, but he still wasn't sleeping. You know what I mean? The kind of chin that man has is just different kind of. And now he took almost 2 years off again since the Deontay Wilder fight to fight Joyce again, an up and coming prospect in his prime, fresh, 33 years old, very big, 265 pounds, tall, good frame, very good shape. I don't know what his managers were thinking again making this fight, so because Stiverne has proven in that Wilder rematch, he had a 2-year layoff before the Wilder rematch, and he looked completely terrible in that rematch. He got knocked out in the first round by Wilder, and again he got almost 2-year layoff, and again going against a really hard, big, heavy puncher, dangerous game opponent, also very hungry, in need of a win desperately, like Joyce. So again, you know, his management, his team ain't making Stiverne any favors by this kind of matchmaking, and that's why boxing experts expected Joyce to make a quick work of Stiverne, which he couldn't do, and now a lot of people I hear saying that Joyce has no power. Well, wait about that. I mean, in fact, it's probably only Wilder that has that phenomenal power that can blow a guy out like Stiverne in first round like he did in the rematch. Because Stiverne looked in similar shape like he looked in that Wilder rematch after layoff, being inactive, you know, off timing, off his rhythm. Boxing, you cannot take a time off from war and just jump right back into the war. While these other people were into the war, they were fighting, they were competing 3 times a year, 2 times a year. You cannot be inactive for 2 years and just come back at that kind of level. Especially when Stiverne never really proved himself to be highest level fighter. So that being said, the result we got what we got. Joyce tried to knock him out, he couldn't, and at first of all, he came really. Joyce at the first few rounds of the fight, he was really loading up on some of his punches. He also took some of really good right hands to the head by Stiverne and didn't seem to be fazed at all by them. Took him really well, and he really hit Stiverne with some hard shots, probably some of his hardest shots, and he just couldn't knock him out. So at first of all, I thought he got tired when he started to light his punches up, but then I realized that he simply changed his game plan, because sometimes it's very dangerous. You can punch yourself out against such a fighters like Stiverne, who can just absorb the punishment, absorb it, and just stay somehow on their feet, because they can always, you might find yourself very tired by the end of the fight, and they can always carry, even if you beat them up through the fight, they can still land that really good one punch and hurt you real bad. So that being said, Joyce played it smart, changed the game plan, started to conserve his energy more, and thank God for that referee in the 6th round. I mean, amazing piece of refereeing. Really, that fight was going nowhere. I mean, Stiverne was just getting again beat up really badly, and the only chance he seemed to have remaining in that fight was to really hope to land that one very good punch, which is a very risky game plan in a 12 round fight of heavyweight boxing, just to hope you might land a lucky punch, or if you won't, you will get smashed. So that being said, the referee did really amazing job. I wish there were more referees like that. He was on top of the action, because Joyce really connected well on Stiverne in that round number 6, and you could see he got hurt, but he's just that durable, he's just that tough. He stays up on his feet for as much as he can, and sometimes those fighters have to be saved from themselves, and that's that was a really good piece of refereeing. And the fight that was the fight really was what I expected it pretty much to be, and I think Joyce learned something about himself in this fight as well. He understood that he probably, because sometimes, fighters think that they hit extremely hard and they are extremely fast, but when they get in the ring against certain type of opposition, they realize that they are not as fast as they always thought they are, and they are not as strong as they always thought they are. And I think Joyce really imagined himself as being the force, as being the hardest puncher. I really think he believed in himself that way, and even he said after the fight, I really hit him how I can, and he just stood up, and it's probably only Deontay Wilder that has that kind of phenomenal power to take that guy out like that. And that's the thing. I mean, to say that Joyce has no power because he couldn't knock Stiverne out in first rounds is just ridiculous. I mean, because there is a really good power, and there is that phenomenal power which Wilder possesses. He's different from other fighters in that aspect, and obviously he has his own weaknesses as a boxer, so nobody's perfect. However, Joyce in that regard totally not ready for top opposition. I believe he showed against Stiverne that he simply is not ready to compete against any of top level heavyweight opposition. I'm not even talking about the guys like Joshua or Wilder or Fury. I'm speaking about guys like Povetkin or Joseph Parker. I just don't see him competing against any of these guys so far. I'm sure his coaches will feel the same way, so no chance. I think we see him fighting top opposition next, and he still has a lot to work on. Looked slow, looked stiff, like just not enough movement. Just I don't see him being a very dangerous opponent. Well, he proved that he has a solid chin, because Stiverne clipped him hard in first round, I think, the right hand, and it didn't phase him at all. But generally, I just don't see him so far near the level of any of these guys. And the main event, we saw the really do or die fight between James Degale and Chris Eubank Jr. And I mean, for Eubank, this fight was, he said, I thought like it's the last fight of my career, and he really looked savage in that ring. I don't remember seeing somebody looking full knockout so hard as Eubank did against Degale. And after this fight, I also hear some different opinions. So a lot of people criticizing Degale said that he looked terrible, that he is shot, but to be completely honest, I think what shot him the most was that first knockdown. I don't think that Degale was hiding injury or anything coming to this fight. I think he didn't plan to hold as much as he did in that fight. I think he basically tried to establish his game plan, tried to establish his tactics from the opening bell, and then after that first knockdown, after Eubank really heavily connecting on him, I saw the look on his face. It changed, and I think he really, really, really didn't want to get knocked out his in his country, in his retirement fight, so he made it a grappling match. Pretty much, he understood that. I think he was really underestimating Eubank until he got under his combinations, and when he took those punches, I think he changed his game plan. That being said, Chris Eubank looked better, looked improved. He tried to jab since the first round. I saw him throwing the jab, doubling it up. I was impressed. Really, was much more patient. Also, more accurate. Just measuring his punches, because against George Groves, I've seen he was just swinging, looking desperately for that knockout and just missing. Looked really bad in that fight, and looked much better in this fight when he got Degale on the ropes. Degale also, like George Groves, tried all these tricks to avoid the punches with his head, and Eubank just kinda measured him up and really landed some good punches that he couldn't land in earlier stages of his career. So we see really an improved Eubank Jr. In that fight, and hell knows what's next for him. I mean, is he ready for a world title? I mean, I imagine him against Canelo. I don't think he's ready, to be honest. I'm a big fan of Chris Eubank Sr. and of Chris Eubank Jr. and I don't see Junior being ready for Canelo Alvarez yet. We will see how Canelo fights Jacobs, how that fight's gonna go, but I think Eubank still needs to fight somebody not quite that level, and still needs to put some things together in his overall boxing game. I think he really has the talent to be there physically. He spiritually, physically, Chris Eubank Jr. looks great, really great, really savage, a fighter from heart, and very good chin, fast, very strong punches as well. And what he lacks is simply some boxing skill and some strategies. What he lacks is a boxing IQ, I could say, and I think they still need to work on some things, and then can he make it? Absolutely. I think he can become the undisputed world middleweight champion if he really puts things together. And it's a tough game. You can never guarantee anything or say like that, but I think he definitely has a chance to mix there with the top guys in the world. And for Degale, I mean, he said himself, this is my retirement fight if I don't win, and he was in a hard fight this is the good last fight for him because the public will remember it. It was a lot of people. In England, those kind of domestic showdowns are really something bigger. And had a really good career. We can be happy for him. It's time for Eubank now to earn his stripes in the boxing world.